بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم ما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى والذين كفروا عما أنذروا معرضون.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Continue with Surah Al-Ahqaf, ayah number 20. Ayah number 20, and we'll see if we have after that to continue inshallah. Ayah number 20, Surah Al-Ahqaf. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ويوم يعرض الذين كفروا على النار أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا واستمتعتم بها فاليوم تجزون عذاب الهون بما كنتم تستكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق وبما كنتم تفسقون. And the day those who disbelieved are exposed to the fire, it will be said, you exhausted your pleasures during your worldly life and enjoying them. So this day you will be awarded the punishment of extreme humiliation because you were arrogant upon the earth without right and because you were defiantly disobedient. So this is wa'id. The ayah has this severe wa'id and warning for the disbelievers, and more than what has been mentioned before of the wa'id in the previous verses. So Imam al-Sa'di rahimahullah, he says, يذكر تعالى حال الكفار عند عرضهم على النار. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the state of the kuffar when they are presented to the hellfire, right in front of the hellfire. And there's the like of that in many verses in the Quran. Now the verses is taking us to the hereafter, and now they are in front of the hellfire. وَيَوْمَ يُعْرَضُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Al-ard is when something is presented, something right in front of something else. عند عرضهم على النار. So they see their punishment, they see the fire that they used to disbelieve in. عند عرضهم على النار حين يوبخون ويقرعون. And the punishment which is more than just the physical punishment is التوبيخ والتقريع. They will be scolded, they will be humiliated by even the words that are being said. And he says فيقال لهم, it will be said to them, أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا. أذهبتم, الذهاب is when something goes away. So as we heard in the translation, you exhausted. That means you finished all of your طيبات, or the good things or your pleasure, you wasted it, you let it go, you used it all. أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا. There is nothing left for you. You exhausted all of your طيبات and your good things and pleasures in this worldly life. He says حيث اطمأننتم إلى الدنيا. When you had the اطمئنان in the dunya, that means this was the end of it. This was the ultimate pleasure for you. There was no seeking the hereafter. They've never done anything for the sake of Allah, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. And this is the justice of Allah. Whoever seeks something, he will get whatever he was seeking. They sought the pleasure of this worldly life, and that's the end of it. This is the itma'nan was to the dunya. Then they received it in this dunya. But in the hereafter, there's nothing for them. وَاغْتَرَرْتُمْ بِلَذَّاتِهَا. And you were deceived from al-ghurur by the desires and the ladha of this dunya. وَرَضِيتُمْ بِشَهَوَاتِهَا. And you were pleased بِالشَّهَوَات, with the lustful desires and the like of this. And the rida, when someone is in state of a rida, he doesn't want to leave it. He doesn't want to go beyond it. Of course, anyone in this dunya, whenever they are in a state of pleasure or having good time, they want something better, but within the dunya. So raditum bid-dunya, the dunya and the shahwat of the dunya was their ultimate desire. They did not seek anything beyond that because they disbelieved in the hereafter. And all of these evil characteristics, the opposite of it is the characteristics of the believers. The believers are not satisfied, are not pleased with this dunya in the sense that this is not their place of delight and happiness and desires and so on. The place of desires in the hereafter and the desires that they get in this dunya, they enjoy that for the sake of Allah as long as it's not in the state of sins and disobedience to Allah. وَأَلْهَتْكُمْ طَيِّبَاتُهَا, and the طيبات, الطيب is anything that is pure, anything that is clean, pure, beautiful, anything that is good, desirable. أَلْهَتْكُمْ, that means diverted you away. عن السعي لآخرتكم, took you away from السعي, diligently working for you hereafter. زُيَّنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. This worldly life has been adorned for the disbelievers. And when the dunya is adorned, that means a person will focus on it. They will have ghafla. And of course, their ghafla is a major one because they disbelieved in the hereafter. وألهتكم طيباتها عن السعي لآخرتكم وتمتعتم تمتع الأنعام السارحة. And you enjoyed it, meaning your desires in this life, the tamattu', the enjoyment of al-an'am, the cattle. As-sariha is the one that are loose. They're not tied even, they can do whatever they want. فهي حظكم من آخرتكم. So this is your share for your hereafter. That means there's no share. Nothing left for you in the hereafter. He says فهي حظكم من آخرتكم ويوم يعرض الذين كفروا على النار أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا واستمتعتم بها. So two things. أذهبتم طيباتكم, you wasted all of it. And the waste in this life is when a person in the state of disbelief. It's all waste. Because whatever enjoyment that they do, it does not come back for them in any way or form. Just once it's done, it's gone. But for the believers, any enjoyment that they have in this life, if they do it with al-iman wal-amal al-salih and the good intentions, they have it in this dunya, in this worldly life, and it's kept for them for rewards in the hereafter. So it does not go away from them. وَاسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهَا, and you enjoyed it. Enjoying the mata' and the temporary things in this dunya, it's not haram in itself. But for the disbelievers, it's haram. Their enjoyment in this life is a sinful enjoyment. Why? Because they are in the state of disbelief. It's the same act, might be the same halal act, but for the disbelievers, it's sinful, and for the believers, it's permissible. Why? Because the state of disbelief ruins everything. When a person is a disbeliever, the heart is in the state of disbelief, nothing is of any value whatsoever. وَاسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهَا. So then, فَالْيَوْمَ تُجْزَوْنَ عَذَابَ الْهُونِ. On that day, meaning the day of judgment, you will be تُجْزَوْنَ, recompensed, the humiliating punishment. أي العذاب الشديد, the intense punishment, الذي يهينكم, the intense punishment that would make you humiliated. ويفضحكم, and exposes you. Why? بما كنتم تستكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق. Because of what you used to be arrogantly acting upon the earth. It says here بما كنتم تقولون على الله غير الحق. If it's not a quote of the verse, this can be just explaining. But the ayah, it says بما كنتم تستكبرون. So it's because of your arrogance on the face of earth. And part of the arrogance is when people speak about Allah without knowledge. They say this is what is right, this is what is wrong, without any sultan or any authority of this. أي تنسبون الطريق الضالة التي أنتم عليها إلى الله وإلى حكمه وأنتم كذبة في ذلك. So the arrogance that they were upon, they would attribute the false, the deviant path that they were upon to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That they would say this is the path of Allah. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. Where did they come up with that? No athara min ilm, as it's previously mentioned. No knowledge whatsoever, no wahy, nothing whatsoever. وَإِلَى حُكْمِهِ, and to the judgment of Allah, they attributed that to the hukm of Allah. They would claim that they have Jannah for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them. And it's amazing how the disbelievers, they are always upon this. The believers are the total opposites. The believers that, if anyone can say that Jannah is for me, I will be from among the people of Jannah, it should be the believers. But the believers, they never say that in this life. They say we hope because they know the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his names and attributes, and they're not arrogant. The arrogance is when a person thinks that he owns everything and he can just suggest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatever they want. So وَإِلَى حُكْمِهِ وَأَنْتُمْ كَذَبَةٌ فِي ذَلِكَ. Well, you are liars in this. This is one of the things that some of the people, they don't understand this. They think that if a person says Allah knows best what's going to happen to us, they think that they are in doubt. No, this is the humbleness in the hearts of the believers. And they have the good expectations of Allah and they hope for the rewards from Allah. But they know that as long as a person is alive, anything can happen. A person's heart can change. So this is a healthy thing to keep them firm upon the deen. But once someone would say, that's it, he's among the people of Jannah, he's protected from the hellfire, what happens? A person might then think that that's it, and then he doesn't do anything. And you see how the level of goodness of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, those who received in their lifetime the glad tidings that they are among the people of Jannah, and how they acted after knowing that with certainty. And they heard it from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And they still had the humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they would never attribute anything to them. And that's why, as the tafsir of this ayah, you would find in that how the athar from Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu used to quote this verse: أَذْهَبْتُمْ طَيِّبَاتِكُمْ فِي حَيَاتِكُمُ الدُّنْيا. You exhausted your tayyibat, your good things in this life, and because of his wara' and his abstaining from even the possibilities that might get him closer to be away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that some people don't understand it in the right way, as it's mentioned in Tafseer Ibn Kathir and others, where Umar ibn al-Khattab used to say, لَأَنَا أَعْلَمُ بِخَفْضِ الْعَيْشِ. I know exactly how to live a luxurious life. You know how the life of Umar radiallahu anhu was very tough. And he would have patches when he was Amir, the Khalifa of the Muslimin. More than even people would count the numbers of patches on his clothes, that he would patch his clothes and not get even a new one. And he would sleep under a tree, eating very tough, rough food, and living a life that he's just anything that just get him to pass so that he reaches destination in the hereafter. And he would say that I know exactly how to live a goodly life. ولو شئت لجعلت أكبادا وصلائق وصنابا وكراكر وأسنمة. And if I wish, I can get all the different types of food with liver and meat and roasted and the fat from the hump, all kinds of things. If he wish, he can get all of this. He's the Khalifa of the Muslimin that rules the world at this time. He says, وَلَكِنِّي رَأَيْتُ اللَّهَ نَعَى عَلَى قَوْمٍ. But because I saw, رأيت, I saw that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala na'a, mentioned, and na'i is when you give condolences for someone. That means he subhanahu wa ta'ala said about some people, أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا واستمتعتم بها. That you exhausted your good things in this life and you enjoyed it. So, and he meant by that is the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that he's in charge of the ummah. And if he opens this gate for him, no one can guarantee anything. And when he entered Jerusalem, radiallahu anhu, and Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu anhu was waiting for him, and with all of the things I mentioned about him, but one of the things is that's also mentioned in the books of the Tafseer, that Khalid radiallahu anhu, the leader of the Muslimin then, he brought some good food to Umar radiallahu anhu. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, هذا لنا فما لفقراء المسلمين الذين ماتوا ولم يشبعوا من خبز الشعير. This is for us. So how about the poor Muslims, those who died and they were not even full from the barley bread? So Khalid radiallahu anhu, he said, لهم الجنة. For them is Jannah. So بكى عمر radiallahu anhu wept. And he said, لئن كان حظنا في المقام وذهبوا بالجنة لقد باينون بونا بعيدا. If our share in this and they already enter Jannah or they surpass us, that means they're far away from us, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. And it was not, again, the misunderstanding is that it needs to be explained. It doesn't need to be explained. It's very clear. No one is to ever forbid what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted. But the higher level of iman that a person would get, and especially with being, this is the ways of the leaders of the believers. not that it's the norm, is the total opposite. So Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he mentioned this, and he says وقد تورع أمير المؤمنين عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه عن كثير من طيبات المآكل والمشارب وتنزه عنها. That he تورع, he stayed away from many of the pleasant things of food and drinks and so on. And he says إني أخاف أن أكون كالذين قال تعالى فيه. I'm afraid that I'll be among those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them وقرعهم, and he scolded them أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا واستمتعتم بها. That you exhausted your good things. And as also he mentioned the statement of Abu Majlis, ليتفقدن أقوام حسنات كانت لهم في الدنيا فيقال لهم أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا. Has so much effect in the hearts, of course, that some people would search for their hasanat in the day of judgment that they used to have or they earned it in this dunya. And it will be said to them, you exhausted your good things in this worldly life. So a person doing hasanat and sayyi'at, the sayyi'at takes away the hasanat. But the halal enjoyment, as long as it's not excessive, this is something that is permissible. And we have nusus text in there, of course, and a person should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the thing that would takes the person away from the deen of Allah, that's where the danger of it, that a person becomes immersed and indulged in it, that takes him away from the ibadah and the worship of Allah and the dedication to this deen of Allah. So therefore, their punishment as a result of the arrogance, بما كنتم تستكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق وبما كنتم تفسقون, and because of how you were rebellious and disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so الجزاء من جنس العمل. So their jaza is from the same sort of deed that they did. As Ibn Kathir rahimahullah says, فَكَمَا نَعَّمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا عَنِ اتِّبَاعِ الْحَقِّ. As they نَعَّمُوا أَنفُسَهُم, they enjoyed themselves with their desires, just no rules whatsoever. Whatever is desirable, they would follow that. And they were arrogantly turning away from the truth. وَتَعَاطَوْا الْفِسْقِ وَالْمَعَاصِي, and they acquired the sins and the disobedience of Allah. جَازَاهُمُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِ الْهُونِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them with the humiliating punishment. وهو الإهانة والخزي والألام الموجعة. The humiliation, disgrace, painful punishments, والحسرات المتتابعة, the regret that would never leave them, والمنازل في الدركات المفضعة, and for them to go down in the lowest of the levels of the hellfire. He says أجارنا الله من ذلك كله. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all of that. So he says وبما كنتم تفسقون. Imam السعدي رحمه الله says وبما كنتم تفسقون أي تتكبرون عن طاعته. You were arrogantly turning away from the obedience of Allah. فجمعوا بين قول الباطل والعمل بالباطل والكذب على الله. So all of these evil things together. قول الباطل, they had all of that. To speak falsehood. والعمل بالباطل, and to act upon falsehood. والكذب على الله, and lying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بنسبته إلى رضاه, when they attribute everything that they do that Allah is pleased with it. And where did they come up with this? Nothing whatsoever. This is all from their own desires. والقدح في الحق, and attacking the truth. والاستكبار عنه, and being arrogantly away from it. فعوقبوا أشد العقوبة. So they were punished, one of the worst and the most severe in punishment. So then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, mentioning the story of the people of Ad. We start from the first ayah, وَاذْكُرْ أَخَا عَادٍ إِذْ أَنذَرَ قَوْمَهُ بِالْأَحْقَافِ وَقَدْ خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. And mentioned the brother of Ad when he warned his people in the Al-Ahqaf, and warners came already passed on before him and after him, saying, do not worship except Allah. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of the terrible day. So now the story of the people of Hud and the like of that is another maw'idha, another way of reminder and admonition to the disbelievers, those who disbelieve in the truth, to remind them. And after what's mentioned and what's going to happen to them in the hereafter, then to show some of their brethren in disbelief and what happened to them in this life. As previously mentioned, they're all upon the same thing. It's just follow the same ways. وَقَدْ خَلَتِ الْقُرُونُ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَوْ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ حَقَّ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَوْلُ فِي أُمَمٍ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. The new ones, every generation, they just follow the previous ones. They become all together, and they're all gathered together in the hereafter in the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the believers will be also together. So he says here, Sa'di, I wadhkur, and remember and mention بالثناء الجميل, the beautiful praise, أخا عاد, the brother of Ad, وهو هود عليه السلام. This is Hud عليه السلام. He's from the people of Ad. حيث كان من الرسل الكرام, from the honorable messengers of Allah, الذين فضلهم الله تعالى, that Allah bestowed His favor upon them بالدعوة إلى دينه وإرشاد الخلق إليه, by giving da'wah to His religion and guiding the people to Him. فضلهم الله, التفضيل. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow His favor upon someone, He would make him be upon the deen, and He would make him among those who would call to the deen, which is the job of the messengers of Allah. That's why, as the statement that we mentioned before of Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, that he said, ما وجدت منزلة بعد منزلة النبوة أفضل من بث العلم. I've never seen a level after the level of prophethood better than spreading the knowledge, because that's what the job of the messengers. But they were not just spreading knowledge, they were upon the knowledge that they spread. So he says, إذ أنذر قومه, when he warned his people, وهم عاد, warning his people, بالأحقاف, in the أحقاف, أي في منازلهم المعروفة بالأحقاف. So the أحقاف refers to a region, by their dwellings that is known to with the name Al-Ahqaf. What is Al-Ahqaf? Linguistically, وهي الرمال الكثيرة في أرض اليمن. Lots of sand by the land of Al-Yaman. So Al-Ahqaf is the plural of حقف. Plural of حقف. And Al-Hiqf is الرمل العظيم. Great amount of sand that is widespread. Like it looks like a high rectangular big portion of sand like this. So, but it was a place in Yemen, as it said. Some said Hadramaut and some other places. So this is where their place used to be. And that's what the surah is named after, the name of Al-Ahqaf. وَقَدْ خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ. خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ, as the nudhur has been already given, the warnings has already been given, and warners had already passed. من بين يديه ومن خلفه, from before him and after him. That means فَلَمْ يَكُنْ بِدْعًا مِنْهُمْ وَلَا مُخَلِّفًا لَهُم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Hud alayhi salam to them. He's not the first messenger. There were messengers before, messengers after. That's the same argument with every messenger. It's not something new for humanity. But every time a messenger is sent, people still disbelieve in him. And what's even more strange, for those who believe in some of the messengers and they disbelieve in other messengers. In what basis they believed in some and they disbelieved in others. So this is ما كنت بدعا من الرسل. I wasn't بدعا, something innovative or something new. So he says, فلم يكن بدعا منهم ولا مخالفا لهم. And he did not go against their affairs. قائلا لهم ألا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم. He does not want anything from them. He doesn't want to rule over them or take their money or anything. Just one thing, and that is for them to worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And he feared for them a severe punishment, a great punishment in the hereafter. فأمرهم بعبادة الله الجامعة لكل قول سديد وعمل حميد. He ordered them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the most comprehensive and beautiful thing for every قول سديد, for every sound speech, وعمل حميد, and praiseworthy action. ونهاهم عن الشرك والتنديد. And he forbade them from الشرك, associating partners with Allah, and التنديد, which is to have partners with Allah. وخوفهم إن لم يطيعوه العذاب الشديد. And he made them, he want to make them fear. خوفهم, when you make تخويف, that means you make people fear if they don't obey him, the severe punishment in the hereafter. فلم تفد فيهم تلك الدعوة. The da'wah did not benefit them, and he fulfilled his da'wah and his message by spreading it, by conveying it to the people. So as we, something that is very clear, the da'wah is da'wah to tawheed. And that's why when, especially in the context of da'wah, to follow the ways of the prophets of Allah, calling people to worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, not distracted by what the people would distract. And this is one of the ways of the disbelievers. They would distract the callers to the tawheed with all kinds of things. This is where they start to mention these doubts or searching in things, and just some any speech so that they distract the people. And the da'i to Allah, the caller to Allah, should be wise enough that even though, yes, he answers, but he has to include every time clearly that this is a call of the Tawheed, and to have the sincerity to the people that he called them to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Do not associate partners with Allah. Fear the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. If you die in the state of associating partners with Allah, you will be among the people of the hellfire. This is the message of the prophets of Allah. And not that in this incident and in this word and in this, as people would be just distracted. And it's even though this is important in certain contexts, but the most important thing is that it's always calling people to the Tawheed and never to allow oneself to be distracted from this message. We'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, before next ayah that talks about what did they answer, and what's the next of the story, or what's mentioned in the story of Prophet Hud alayhi salam with his people, Qawm Wa'ad. So, وَيَوْمَ يُوعَدُ الَّذِينَ, as we see down the verses and the benefits from it, and how everything is in the right place and the proper perspective, and the characteristics are mentioned so that the person would do the opposite of it, and to seek help and to be patient with all kinds of things in the Quran. The Quran gives the instructions, gives the proper meanings, and you have even some of the things that people might not think that this is evil. The Quran mentions that some perceptions in the heart can be very evil. Just one, for example, when the people of Qarun, they split into two groups. When they saw Qarun, فَخَرَجَ عَلَى قَوْمِ فِي زِينَتِهِ, when he came out to his people in his zina and his wealth, immediately there are two types of people. قَالَ الَّذِينَ يُرِيدُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيا, those who want the hereafter, the worldly life. قَالَ الَّذِينَ يُرِيدُونَ الْحَيَاةَ, they're only focused on the desires of this worldly life. What would they say? يَا لَيْتَ لَنَا مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ قَارُونَ إِنَّهُ لَذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. We wish that we have what Qarun has. This is what everyone's heart attached to this worldly life, they would say. We only say the youth are this because we did not raise them right. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. The message of the Quran is not in the hearts, youth and adults and everybody. The concern is the money, the wealth, the cars, this and that. يا ليت لنا مثل ما أوتي قارون إنه لذو حظ عظيم, has a great fortune. This is what the great fortune and the great benefit and the great life is in the life of Qarun the kafir, but because he has lots of money and things like this. When you see who responded to them, not قال الذين يريدون الحياة الآخرة. The ayah did not say those who want the hereafter, they said to them, in which they are, but it did not say like this. قال الذين أوتوا العلم. Those who received the knowledge, they said to them, وَيْلَكُمْ ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَيُلَقَّى إِلَى الصَّابِرُونَ. So the people of knowledge versus the people that wants this dunya. So if a person of knowledge wants the dunya, that means he's not a person of knowledge. The dunya has its people. Everybody knows the dunya. But what's the benefit of the ilm? The benefit of the ilm is it's all about the hereafter. So even the dunya is described and explained in the light of the hereafter, of what's going to be the end of it. And that's what the ilm is. Not the ilm is what we define as ilm. So the people of knowledge, and the point here is, they said to them, وَيْلَكُمْ. وَيْلَكُمْ, woe to you. Yani such a severe and a very strong word. Even though it doesn't say that they they necessarily did evil or anything, we wish we have what Qarun has. But the response is, وَيْلَكُمْ, woe to you. How can you even have this in your heart? Because this is the root of all evil afterwards. Because now they will take the means to be like Qarun. And it doesn't matter as long as the end does not justify or justify the means to them, as long as they attain what Qarun has. This is their objective in this life. So everything can be compromised. So they said to them, وَيْلَكُمْ, not, oh brothers, please don't, it's better for you. وَيْلَكُمْ, woe to you. ثَوَابُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ. The rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better for those who believe. خَيْرٌ لِمَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and did righteous good deeds. So this is how the message of the Quran and the warning, and how even this ayah of how things will be in the hereafter, so that the person then will be upon the steadfastness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the evil within our own selves. وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وعلى صحبه وسلم.